Welcome back, everyone. I do have to apologize right away. I forgot to have the sound on when I initially recorded this video, so I'm going back in post-production and doing a little voiceover work. So this is going through the speaker of my computer, and so it might not sound quite the way the rest of the video is going to sound, but hopefully it's not terrible. And so here I am kind of producing my Vacumatic Senior with silver pearl design, and my hands have, up until now, have just been kind of showing it off, twirling it around, showing the set as the pen and pencil. And it looks like I'm just kind of admiring it, trying to show a couple little things, talk about the stacked celluloid. I really wish I knew what I said at the time, so forgive me if things are a little bit off. So looks like I'm searching for maybe the imprint at this time. And I did watch it earlier, and I feel like I spent a lot of time searching for that darn imprint, and also looks like I maybe pointed to a little defect in the celluloid, or maybe a little bit of scratch towards the front of the pen. But here I am, I'm twirling it around, trying to get the glare just right, giving everyone, including me, a headache, searching for that darn imprint, which, wow, I spent way too much time trying to look for it. So let's see what I do. Yeah, okay, I found it. I'm scratching at it. Okay, now I went back, and this is the blind cap. It has the tassi. I call it a finial cap later, so I do apologize for that. I think I may be pointing out that it is nickel plated, and I undo it to show the lockdown filler. It has a brass tip on it. And then I open it up, and it looks like it has a nice aluminum shaft that's in good condition, no tarnish or breakdown, and it shows that it's quite springy. And maybe I'm showing that it takes 3 or 4 times to really fill it, and then you can lock it down on your last one. And that would be how you really fill these things. Now let's see, what am I doing now? Going up to the section, it's a short section, but it maintains the same striped celluloid. And I'm showing, I think, that if I hold it, the fingers are kind of maintained because there's a dip in the section, but with the threads right behind it, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I think I was commenting that you don't feel the threads too much. And I think I pointed out the nib. It's got the Parker arrow on it, and it looks like it's going to be a fine nib, and I don't think it had much flex to it, but we'll find out later. And here's the cap. I show the similarly striped cap jewel, and there's the nickel plated clip and the 3 slim cap bands, and this one actually has a decent bit of corrosion on it. And I point that out several times, and I think I go on a little bit of a tangent. I recently acquired a plating set, so to kind of gold plate, nickel plate, copper plate things. And so I think I'm using right here I wonder if I can kind of prep the surface while I do my polishing and see if I can get some nickel plating back onto it. But it's a process I really haven't done much at that point, so not sure how it's going to turn out, and we'll see by the end of the video what happens. So I keep kind of pointing to the corrosion and saying something about it, I suppose. So I'm obsessing about it. I think I was showing maybe prepping the surface with that, just kind of rubbing, and I don't know what I'm saying now. Okay, I'm capping it back. What do I do now? What do I do? Oh, am I about to show how I discuss taking it apart? Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to twist the section off, and I'm anticipating having to use some heat, which of course pretty much always has to happen. And then I think I'm pointing out the breather tube that's inside. And now I flip it over and I go back to the blind cap, and I'm trying to take that back jewel off. And I'm just using a little bit of pressure and just the friction of my skin to get it off. I think I point because sometimes you have to use a little bit of heat, and it looks like I was successful. Yeah, got the tassi and the jewel off. So that'll let me just kind of do my sanding, polishing without having to worry about messing up that nickel plate anymore. So the larger jewel on the cap looks like I'm going to struggle with it for a little bit. And with age, a lot of these things become very sticky. You're probably going to have to use heat of some kind to get them off. And I'm pointing out something. Maybe the base of that one has just plastic. I think a lot of times the larger ones will have kind of a metal base in there. So you're not only unscrewing the jewel, you're also having a little inner metal core that will also come out. And that may be what I'm talking about there. So I keep trying, I'm turning, I'm trying to see if maybe my thumb friction will be enough for it. At certain points, I use my fingernail to try to get in under the jewel just to see if I can break up anything that's sticking, but that's also just maybe not the smartest thing you can do. Like if you put too much tension on that jewel, you can actually break it off from its threaded stem. So I don't like that I keep doing that. I really should change that practice. So I think I'm going to anticipate using some heat just to get that off, and I'm spending way too much time on it. I apologize. This is kind of nice to see as a watcher, just to see what I can really kind of streamline and focus less on and take up less of your time and get more to the interesting bits. So here I am probably summarizing that I'm going to use some heat, I'm going to twist off the section, and that pretty soon we'll use the knockout block, get everything taken apart, and I imagine coming back with everything disassembled.
Okay, I'm back, and I was actually pretty successful this time. So just like we have the jewel little finial cap down here for the blind cap, I was able to use a little bit of heat, a little bit of twisting to get the cap jewel out of the top. And this is the eraser I was talking about. So heat, 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 and I'll just press down and twist, and it gave me enough traction to be able to get this out. And this is actually kind of cool. I mean, this is just a recess into the cap with the screws in it, threads I mean, and this is it. This is the jewel. It actually has a little bit of reinforcement in terms of a little metal sheath around it to protect it, so that was kind of cool. I didn't expect that, but here we go. So there's these, and now I have this, which I'll polish, and maybe I'll try to replate that as well. We'll see. And then here's my cap, and sure enough, so here is the section out, and it wasn't so much that it was tight. You could actually feel it with enough heat. You start to feel the gummy kind of glue or adhesive that they have in here, and I can even twist it, like it just feels crunchy again as the glue is warmed up. But that's what I was really working against for with the heat. And like I said, here's the breather tube, so that as you push down to create your vacuum, you will be able to push air out through here and suck the ink in as you let go, and it spills out, fills the vacuum, fills the barrel, but then you still have this so that you can keep pressing, keep shooting air out, sucking ink in, air out, ink in this airtight space in the barrel. And these are good, they just pull right out. And this is actually pretty good. This one might not have been used very much because that is super clear. That's not stained at all, so this one probably was baby, maybe used, maybe not, who knows. But we'll find out once we get this taken apart some more, see if we get any ink residue out of it. So we're just left with the good old section that we will just knock out, and I'll do that off camera. I've already showed you once. I'm just going to use my knockout block to knock the nib and feed out. So not waste time on that. Let's actually spend the most time on this. This is the lockdown filler, and I'll show you the tool that I have. This is from, I believe, is it pen tooling? It's probably pen tooling. It might say it on there. But there's different ways that you can do this, and again, I do this at home, so I bought the tools to be able to do this. So this is essentially just a little wrench system that allows you to take one of the pre-made threads, and I know it's the yellow one because I already did this once. I loosened it to make sure I could do it, and I'm going to thread it on top. And there's also a blue one, a red one. The red one works for the majors. I've not really had a need to use this blue one, but this yellow one apparently is what I need for the Maxima. And this, you know, clamps on like a wrench. You stick it in there, and it's going to seat itself There you go. And that's really just keeping pressure so that you can twist and let this hold on to the the actual plunger thread. So I would apply some heat right here, and I've already done this, so it's going to come out nice and easy. Oh, and actually let me say one thing before we do it. So take note of how deep or how close to the edge of your barrel this looks to be maybe a little bit metal. How deep, because you can really thread these things in, and once you have replaced the diaphragm that we'll see, you can set this a little bit deeper or shallower than what manufacturer was, and that'll play a part in when you put your blind cap back on, because maybe sometimes these things aren't perfectly, you know, aligned or spheres, and now that I've messed with it, I can feel a little bit of a lip right here, so it's not super smooth all the way around. It's a little bit, just the variation, you start to feel it. So take a notice of how deep this is into the barrel itself. So I'm going to throw that on there, and this is how it clamps on. It's got that groove in here, so you can apply pressure to clamp on and hold. I'll actually do it with my fingers. That's crazy. That's pretty good. I like that. So I guess if you just had something like that, you could maybe do it with sheer strength. But here's the filler. Oh, nice. Then it already pulled my cup out. So that's kind of nice. So here is where you're going to change the diaphragm. We'll get into that in a second. More than a second, we'll get to that. But let me grab a little dowel that I have. Let's see, well, are these big enough? Can I just use one of these? Let's see, is that big? Yeah, probably. Since it's really just a matter of, I'm just going to use a little push. And there's the old, that's pretty good. Yeah, there's the ball, the cup. Yeah, this thing is old. But there it is. What I would usually do if these were harder in there, because they can get really adhered to the side, you could soak these in some water and just kind of soften that rubber up, and take a dowel or something that fits and just push it out. And then I use the pipe cleaners to kind of get in there and really kind of unstick anything from the wall, which, let's check it out. Let's see. Do I have anything left to kind of undo? I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I should shine it this way so you can maybe see with me. Shine it up in there, and I think it all came out nice and clean. And you can also see, just for giggles, maybe the room's too bright, but you can also see how, yeah, maybe not. Let me turn the light off, if I can find it. Yeah. Still bright. Let's see. One more light. Let's see. Okay. Don't fall. Maybe we'll find a way to show you the clarity. It's not really showing up as much as I would like. Oh, there we go. In the barrel. You can see, ideally, if you were to shine this hold this up to the light, you could see your ink capacity through here. So it's even got some pretty decent clarity. Let's see if I can find a shot later where you can get it in all its glory. And turn that on. Turn that on. And that is it. That is the whole thing. Put these away for a second. That is the whole thing broken down. So what I will do is, just for the sake of my own polishing technique, I'll actually screw this back in. And recap it so that when I'm ready, I can just keep this thing smooth. And so what I've actually learned to do over this period of time is the first thing I will do actually is I'll do my cleaning. So I'm going to go soak these, I'm going to brush them off, I'm going to use my pipe cleaners and get everything out. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to replace the diaphragm. This one actually popped right out for me, so I got lucky. I don't have to dig this out. So I'm going to have to do another one to show you how I get the ball out. And the ball is this little plastic guy that was actually within the diaphragm. So we'll replace it, we'll cut it down, we'll fit it in, and I'll find how much I'm going to screw this in and find the level so that I can keep this together, keep this on, find out how close I can get it to being smooth, and that's when I'll do my polishing, just to, like, if there's any weird little lip or anything, I can make it everything like smooth and seamless. And let's see, I'm not going to, and I'll still do this section differently. I'll still do this section by itself because I don't want to be polishing over threads and messing them up. So that's what I think I'll do. I'll get everything soaked and cleaned, and I'll come back and I'll show you how to replace the diaphragm. Okay, and so until then, I'll see you soon. Okay, so I had my battery die on my camera, so there's going to be a bit of a splice, and I'll see how smooth I can make the transition. But suffice to say, I'm not going to take this back out just to put it back in because I want to protect this. I don't want to rip it as I pull it out. So we have this diaphragm on, and this is an uncut diaphragm, so we're going to have to cut it down to size. So there's a couple different things you can do. I do my diaphragm cutting and sizing with the cup, with the ball in the cup. There are other people who do the cuts and everything before, and it's, I think, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, to be quite honest. So if you have more than one resource, by all means, I think they'll all get you to the same place. So what I would do is lay this down. So my start measure is going to be at the edge of that cup, from where I start to see sack and onward. And this is kind of where it gets a little, I think it's just a nuance thing. So some people will say the length is 1 1/16 of an inch. So that 1/16 is roughly where that ball is. So I use my beginning point and just go to the 1 inch mark, and that's my cut. I just don't even worry about what's in the cup, the pellet part of it. So I will take my scissors, which, did I put that down here? Yes, I did. So I'm going to find, I'll put that back in a second. I'm going to find my edge, line it up, find my 1 inch mark, and this is when, again, a nice razor cut would be nice, but I'm going to cut it right there. There's my nice inch. Did a good job. And the piece, I keep cutting and redoing this video because there is a piece here that keeps falling out of mine. This is a little bar. I'll show you what it does. So right now this is moving freely, but in the tube, and maybe you can see it, see if I can find the line, get an angle, there's a spring in there. And you know, the spring is not just from the diaphragm, but it's also from a spring in here, and there is a slit right there, and there's another slit on the other side 180 degrees away. And so this little bar goes through the slits but under the spring in here, and that's what's going to catch it and give you that nice snap. So I've had to let it fall out and put it back in several times, so I'm going to go ahead and cut for just a second, put it back in, and we'll finish up the sack, and hopefully it won't fall out anymore, but I'll be right back. Okay, I got it back in, and as you can see, it works. I'm just gonna have to hold it and be really particular about what I do because I don't want it to keep falling out. So now that we've got it cut, I'm going to put a bunch of talc on the outside of this. The outside that'll become the inside. So I've got talc on it. I take this little dowel, stick it in there, and see if I can get it started. There we go. That talc should help the sack kind of roll in on itself, and I've already knocked a bunch of talc off, so it's already a little bit finicky. And of course I'm doing this over the camera, so bear with, and we'll just inch it up a little bit at a time if I can. Whoa, and there's my bar coming right back out. This one is a little finicky. Surprised it's not tighter in there, to be honest. Nope, fall out the other side. I just need it to stay in there long enough to get it back in. Okay, it's back in. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I pretty much knocked a lot of my talc off, so let's undo it. Let's go back, try it again. If it doesn't go well this time, I might just do it off camera just for the sake of not being quite so awkward with it. Let's get the cover. Okay. Gonna have a light touch on it. Just try to force it a little bit more aggressively. Try to get it up there. Yeah, this one for some reason just wants to stick. Yep. Oh, the joys. Oh. Am I getting it a little bit more? I think so, yeah. It's getting up there. Okay, let's get that back in. And I'll rinse off this outside. I don't want talc on this outside. There we go. And I want to wrestle it. Usually it's not this hard. For some reason I'm really having a tough time, so of all the times to make a video, this was not the one. But I'm really looking for, I'm going to use that, yeah, to my advantage. Okay. Oh, shoot. Not quite what I want. But I want the folded part to get up over the middle cuff. Let's see if I can just start pulling it over and use I think we have to do another video and actually make it look easy, because this is not how it usually goes. Alright, let's do this again. Let's try to do that and see if I can work a lip over there. Oh, and I lost it. Almost. There we go. Finally got it up on there. Holy cow. So I've got the edge of the sack up to that lip that was on the cone. and if you press down, it comes all the way down, and you should kind of be able to see the ball inside, so it should almost fully extend, and that's kind of what you want. You don't want wasted material, you don't want all this extra, so it should come down to a nice, there's the ball, and not much is left. Otherwise you just have a bunch of sack bunching up that you don't need. So I'm gonna just use a little spit, get some of this talc from the outside, because we don't want that. We don't need that on the barrel, on the inside of the barrel, that is. Oh, and don't let me just do that. Get back on there. Okay. Okay, so there you go. Lay that there. Get this out of the way. We'll have a mess for a second. But I'm going to get a couple things. Grab this. I've got my tool again. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of this grease. Some people use some silicone oil. There's a little bit of silicone grease. And right just at that white tip, I'm just going to touch it. And then put a little bead right around the edge. Some people, I've done it, and I've done it sometimes where I just use some spit or something, but I'm going to try to do it as official as I can. And oh my gosh. All the things, it just keeps going wrong. I've got to put this back on. Let me see if I can wrestle it back on. Usually I have a different dowel that's a little more tapered. Maybe it's just because I'm using this one that's become so such an issue for me. But I don't really have that much trouble usually. Okay, it's back on. I'm going to have it soup, and there's that little piece falling back out. Make sure it's in there. I guess in a way it's good to kind of see the little finicky things that can happen, and you know, otherwise you might not have thought about this little piece at all, and hopefully 90% of the time you won't have any issues with them, but in case you do, fair enough. Alright, so that's full on there. Okay, I'm back in business. I'm just gonna touch it less. And just put a little bit of the grease there. Are you kidding me? And there's that little piece that fell right back out. Let me grab it. Okay, it's back. Okay. It's in there now before I do it again. So I have cleaned this barrel thoroughly on the inside. I scrubbed it with soap and water. I even used my Simichrome on a Q-tip and just scrubbed the crap out of the inside because I want this nice and clean. I'm trying to get the barrel as nice and transparent as we can. So I'm going to have to hold on to this. But the grease at the tip is meant to help slide it in place. And there's going to be a little bit of a lip. And the goal here is to get that pushed in, let it seat itself, and then you're going to screw the back of the vacuumtainer, the assembly into the back of the barrel. So I'm actually trying to do it without twisting the rod at all, the plunger as it works. I want the sack to go in, the plunger apparatus to sit on it, and that's what's going to press the sack against the wall to make a seal. And I don't want that sack twisting around, because if it twists it's not going to make a good vacuum and you're just going to screw yourself over. So I've done what I can with my fingers. Alright, come back. I'm going to use Mr. Yellow. Screw it on. And back it off just a minute. I'm going to grasp it and I'm going to finish seating it. And once it gets tight, I stop, because I don't want to over tighten it. I'm not trying to force it all the way down. Might be able to go just a touch more. Try to compare it to what it was before. Just a touch. Yeah. Because if you squeeze too much or twist too much, you can crack the back of your barrel. It'll just get a split in it and you've ruined the whole thing. Okay. Okay. It's springy, as it should be. And let's see if I have to redo this or not. So what I'm looking for is, maybe you can see, there's the sack. You can see the ball, that kind of thing in the center. I'm going to push it up, and the sack presents the ball to you, and that's good. That is straight, that's not twisted. It comes back, and you see that little kind of donut shape. So it went in straight, it stretches, it comes out nice and straight, makes the vacuum, pushes the air out to make the vacuum, and comes back. So I think that is very good, and I can't quite show yet, but maybe by the end of the video we can have it set up that we can see the mechanism. And so then twist it, and that's going to lock down. That little bar that kept falling out, that's what is hooking into here. So you're twisting it to the bar, and that's what keeps it done. Whew. Holy cow, that was a long time, but that was the hardest part. So I like to do that first, get my blind cap back on, and then I can just kind of do my sanding. So what I'll do next is I'll do my taping. I'm going to tape over the imprint, if I can find it. There it is. Tape over the imprint. I'm going to put my blind cap back on. I'm going to tape off on the cap as well, protect the bands. And I'll just start doing my micro mesh polishing, and I'll do the simichrome and do what I usually do, and then we'll just finish up putting it back together. I don't think you need to keep seeing me polish, but this is the part that you need to know. And I'll do another video because I need to show where I get the ball out of the cup or out of the apparatus, just so you can see what it's like. There's a couple different ways to do it, and yeah, you don't need to see one that's as painful as this was to do, and partly, I don't know, maybe it's just because I was using my non-tapered dowel, so maybe it was all my fault. But I'm going to go tape off, I will do my polishing, and we'll come back and we'll do the reassembly. Okay, so I have everything cleaned up and polished and everything done but the waxing. So I just thought we'd go over and kind of undo what we did to take it apart. And of course there is my lockdown filler, still working well. So let's see. Let's do the little bottom one first. We'll take the bottom with its little finial cap, and I'm not going to do any glue in these. I don't want these to be super stuck in there, so I'm just going to friction screw them. If I do find, or anybody finds that they start to come out, you can always put a little dab of shellac or whatever little adhesive you want, but I kind of want this to be able to be undone, so I'm not going to be super rigid about it. Okay, there's that cap. We'll go ahead and put the other cap on with its jewel, and I'll kind of stick with my idea of lining up as best I can the clip in the center of my two breather holes in the cap, just for the symmetry of it. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll tighten that down, and that's solid in there. And oh, 1 second, I'm going to run and get the breather tube. Almost forgot to put that down. Okay, took me 2 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and put the breather tube in, Just simple as that, fits right in there. And actually, I may need to use some force on the table. So I'm going to line it up. And in we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to use a little bit of table force. A little bit more. There we go. Oi, I may have to use a little bit of heat. Yeah, I think that's what it may have to do, so I'm going to have to put a little bit of heat here to expand it so I can get it the rest of the way in, because I've still got a decent amount of space to get through, so that's going to be a little pause for me. And I think what I'll do, and this is maybe a good reason to do it, I screwed this in earlier and I didn't clean. This still has the remnants of shellac. Shellac is hard to get off, and so what I thought I might do, yeah, it'll get me, it's tight at the very end. So what I think I'll do, since I'm going to be doing this at the same time, I think I might heat this a little bit, get that softened, and then go ahead and screw this on and let that kind of cool and be my air seal, to be quite honest. So I think this is actually a good thing, so I can be heating this section to get the nib and feed in a little bit deeper, and then heating this up to go ahead and get a good seal. So that means once the feed is in, I'll slip that in and get the section on. So I think that's what I'll do, and I'll just show it to you real quick, more or less what it would be like, all nice and capped. So this is what we're going to see when we come back and do the writing sample. So I'll just not have you sit here for this, but we'll come back, talk about the pen a little bit, do a little bit of a writing sample, and we'll get some thoughts on it. So I'll see you when I get back. And here it is, completely restored, fully back together in all its glory. So reading up on the pens a little bit, Parker Vacumatics, these particular kind of stacked coin celluloids were about 1933, and were pretty much the reign during the 1930s up until about World War II. Trying to place this one within that range, I think what I came up with is probably one of the earlier models, because try as I might to try to shine light through here, I was not really getting much unless I had the light in the barrel, if you can remember from earlier. And I was reading in, oh, what's the website? I'll make sure there's a link to it. But they were saying that some of the earlier ones, it was hard for them to get this stacked resin kind of figured out from DuPont. And that initially it was very hard. They didn't have quite the transparency that they had before, so you'd have the kind of silverish pearl layers, and then you'd have black plastic in between. And I guess if you shine a light right on the inside to the thinnest part, you can kind of see through it. But they were saying that the transition to some of the clearer stacked celluloid, where you could hold it up to the light, came a couple years later. So this might be on the earlier side, so I'm going to maybe say 1933, 1934. And this guy definitely feels like an oversized model. He feels nice and fat. He's definitely nice and long. I mean, holding that in the hand, it sticks way back there. So this is a big daddy. So what can I say? The trim looks pretty good. I tried to play around off camera earlier with my kind of nickel plating thing that I'm doing, and I think I got it a bit shinier, but there's definitely still some pock marks of some corrosion in the rings. It's not really noticeable unless you try to look for it, so it's not terrible. And I think I got the clip and the tassie, I think I called it finial ring earlier, but the tassie right there to kind of shine up a little bit more. So I think I got a little bit of extra nickel on it. What else? See if there's anything else that could have helped me date this. This definitely has the nice Parker Aero nib. Let's see if I can get it to focus for you. And that's nice. It's not the two-toned higher end one, but this is a pretty solid one. And what else? And the actual, dang it, this one is fairly faint, so I always have to look for it. It does say GOS Parker Vacumatic, made in USA patent. So I don't know if that helps date a little bit, because I couldn't find anything exactly matching it. So it might be, again, not the earliest, but not the latest. So I think 33, 34 is probably a good guess. So let's measure it out. Let's see what we have here. And then we'll get to the writing sample. Am I zoomed out? Yes, I am. Okay. So if I say this guy is capped, he's going to be, I have to like estimate the very tip of that jewel, I suppose. Up to the top is probably about 5, just over 5 1/4. Yeah, just over 5 1/4. And let me get this guy uncapped. And just a hair under 5. Again, maybe if I hadn't pushed the feed quite in so much, it'd be right at 5, but 5 1/4 capped, just over 5 1/4 capped, just under 5 uncapped. And let's see if we have anything on the width of it. Let's see how many. About 9/16, I think, maybe the fattest, something like that. That's pretty close. 9/16. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so let's flip this guy over and we'll see what we can do as far as writing. This time, to match this one, I'm just going to use some Sailor Black ink to kind of match the pearlescence of it. Let's see, get the cap off. Let's see if we can hear the joy of filling this. Okay. Got some bubbles. I'll press about 4 times. So I think that worked. And then we get a little rag. Wipe it down. Oh, I kind of got ahead of myself. I have to do it one more time because I'm going to have to lock it down. Almost forgot about that. So one more time, lock it down, and then we'll just put that blind cap back on. And now I'll wipe it down. Okay, there we go. We'll get this cap taken off. And see if she's going to write. She's going to write. Okay. So we have, we'll call it a Vacumatic, or maybe vacuum filler. I'm going to say this is right around 1933 to 34 for this particular one. And we have, what did I say it was? 5 1/4 inches, a little bit over that capped, and it was about 5 inches uncapped, and I said about 9/16 width, more or less. So there we go. This is pretty good, actually. It is a fine point, and I'm going to predict it's not going to be flexible. Oh yeah, that's me pressing. I barely got anything out of that, so definitely fine point. And I could do a little smoothing. I'll probably just try to smooth this a little bit, but it is super fine, so it's a little bit pen on papery, rather sharp. So maybe a little feedback, which is maybe I'll try to do just a touch of smoothing, just to take a little bit of an edge off. But let's see how much it lays down. And this is a Sailor ink. I've not used this one before. Oh, that is wet. Could be the ink. Could be the nib, who knows? But that does lay down a nice juicy amount of ink. Got a little bit of paper stuck in my tines. Take that out, see if I can. But let's see. Let's do that famous sentence. Just write fast. Yeah, it's a good fast writer, and if I just took my time and actually had good penmanship, it does pretty well. Yeah, other than a little bit of smoothing, which I'll try, it's a good solid writer. It writes fast, it writes slow. It's not flexible, but doesn't have to be. This is excellent ink capacity, I would assume. I'd have to eject the ink to really see. And I guess the only thing lacking that other Vacumatics have is I can't really hold this up to the light as much as I would like and see what's in it. So I would just have to estimate what I have. But this is nice. I like how big this is in the hand. I don't have to post it, and if I did, how would that be? It's quite the big boy if you post it, isn't it? But not heavy. I mean, this is a light celluloid, so even if I flip that off, it really doesn't feel like it changes the weight much. I like this. I like Vacumatics a lot. One of my favorites are the striped Duo Vac, so Vacumatics are high on my list of great pens, and I would recommend this to anybody, to be quite honest with you. This is one of those classic pens. It looks fancy, because it is. Even the lower tier versions of these with like less bands, a little bit smaller, I mean, they were always just well made. Maybe they looked not as fancy because you didn't have quite the same imprint. Maybe you had a more plain nib, but nonetheless they were all gold nibs. They had the nice Vacumatic feature which gave you the ink capacity of most of the barrel. So I think these are fantastic vintage pens, and if you ever get a chance to pick one up in any of the sizes, really, I think it'd be a great deal. So let's see if, oh, and I guess I will say that I will go ahead and be doing this offline. So we've got the pencil that goes with it. So this was a set, and lo and behold, it still has a little bit of lead with it. Well, that's a soft lead too. Look at that. That's cool. And I'll just do this one offline. It's the same process. It's just going to be me polishing it up. And to keep with my usual tradition, I recently came across a pen, and I'll have to take a few steps to go get it, but it's kind of a variation on a vac filler. Let me go grab it real quick. It is a Miller pen. I looked it up quickly the other day. I got this off of eBay just because it looked interesting, and it's like, well, I should vary my collection out to get some of the European brands. And this is going to be similar to a vac filler in that it's got a button on the back, and the button's kind of stuck in there right now, but it's going to be a variation on that, and we'll get into that a little bit. So just to tease a pseudo vac filler for next time with a nice, I think it's Danish, I'm going to go out on the limb and say maybe Danish, but maybe German made, a nice Miller pen. So until next time.